Well, I think I got it working now. Quédate, and welcome to another Hellenic Pagans video. This one being number 20. My name is Evan Regakis, and I am your administrator. So, all right, I have this video here. I wrote it down, got it scripted out and everything. So I want to address these some of these frequently asked questions by, especially by beginners, and these are questions like here it is. Here we go. Do we worship all the gods? How do we worship? Which gods to worship? How do we choose which gods to worship? How many do we choose? Do we worship the 12 Olympians? Do the gods choose us? These are the most frequently asked questions. A little strange, but they are what they are. So let's take them individually. Do we worship all the gods? You know what? As strange as it might sound, the worship of the gods, the worship, not the honoring, the worship of the gods is not a mandatory requirement in the tradition. Not everybody worship the gods. So the answer is no, we don't worship all the gods. I mean, that's purely an academic idea of what a polytheistic religion is all about, worshiping many gods, all the gods. Damn near ridiculous, to tell you the truth. Same deal with honoring. You don't honor all the gods. The conventional definition of polytheism is the belief and worship of many gods. And not exactly. It's the belief in many gods, but not necessarily the worship. Like I said, yeah, it's our indoctrinated understanding of religion, which automatically makes us assume that all ancient Greeks believed and worshipped many gods. According to surviving evidence, not all Greeks even believed in the gods or even knew of all of them. They were different states and city-states, and they didn't have internet back then, so they only knew of gods that actually were in their city-states. Every city-state had its own tradition, so they didn't follow the gods, but they honored certain gods. But honoring and worshiping are two different things. But that is a subject for another video. So let's just stick to this right now. Those who believed in the ancients, I'm talking about, the ancients that believed in the gods would pray to the gods which affected their particular way of life. Like farmers, for instance, would pray to Dimitra for their crops and Zeus for their rain. They didn't have to, honor all the gods, but they prayed to these gods to help them in their own which is the reason why you pray, is to ask for assistance, not to present services or render services, right? Because that's basically what worshipers do. They render service. They are, in ancient Greeks, worshipers were the priests and priestesses of each god, or a certain amount of gods, anyways. And they were in charge of the temples. The temples were not places of congregation, like they weren't churches, like in another funny little religion. I've said this in other videos, I think, I hope, but temples were erected because in certain locations, they weren't just erected, randomly. Each temple had its own story, and basically the temples were memorials to celebrate an event that took place on that spot with the god that the temple is dedicated to. The prime example to this is the Parthenon. The Parthenon was erected, why? Well, it was erected in that specific spot because it was said that in that specific spot, Poseidon and Athena had a contest for the naming of the city. And apparently Athena won, and therefore the city was named Athens, and next thing you know, they built her a temple right there. So, I'll give you another example, something that I recently found. There's a city, an ancient city, just outside my mother's village, which is up on Mount Olympus. About 25 kilometers away, there's a village named Pythion, or Pythion. This city had recently discovered, well, it's not a city anymore, but it's an ancient city. And they discovered a temple of Apollo there. Now, that didn't mean that there was a worship of Apollo there. It just meant that at some point Apollo had stopped at that city. Now, anybody who knows anything about mythology would have known that this is the village that he stopped in when he was descending Olympus, going for Delphi. So the story goes that when Apollo was descending Olympus, he stopped at a village because of a certain female that he instantly fell in love with, or something like that, and got married. So to commemorate this marriage of Apollo and I believe it was Daphne or something like that, they erected this temple in memoriam. So far, nobody has been able to pin it all together, but now that's my job, and I'm going to be talking to the archaeological location, because all of a sudden, they found the temple, then they found the pathways of Apollo. Pretty cool stuff. I'm going to be making a video about it anyways. But, so, back to what I was saying. Uh, Military folk would pray to Athena or Ares, some sort of to help them in. So they didn't pray to all the gods, just the gods that they believed in and could help them in their daily struggles. So how many do we choose? Do we worship the 12 Olympians? There's a funny thing about the Olympians. We can't say that there was a certain sect of Greeks that worshipped the Olympians only. They were the whole imagery of pantheons and the Titans and the Olympians and all that was written really much later than what they have taken place. So they seem to be, well, again, that's another video, but no one can tell you how many to choose. That is really up to you. As for the 12 Olympians, really the same applies. But even those who would pray to the Olympians did not pray to all the Olympians. Okay, so you basically do have to choose yourself. Now, the next question would be, how do we choose which gods to worship? Again, we're just leaving the term worship in there for the sake of argument. Now, how do you choose? In most cases, those seeking the Hellenic pagan tradition will have had some sort of childhood experiences or some personal experiences with one or more of the Greek gods, and have been drawn to them since childhood. So it has a lot to do with your feelings, like which gods draw you to them. You have to investigate, research all the gods, and choose those you feel most drawn to. Now, we're not talking about which ones you like. It's a much more deeper feeling of being attracted, drawn, compelled to a certain god or goddess. This is actually very important because the attraction comes from your own dhamana, or your higher self. And your higher self is sometimes described as the diamond self. The gods that you are drawn to represent facets of your multifaceted diamond. That's very important to understand that certain point. Traditionally, how many facets does the diamond self have? It may vary with each individual, but the rule of thumb is 3, with 1 being the dominant. The reason you're attracted or drawn to that specific god is because somehow your own self has elements of that certain god. So it's really expressing to you its self. So that's our premise, obviously, is to know thyself. So by listening to your feelings, by listening to your instinct, by listening to what draws you, that alone will be an expression of understanding yourself. Also, it does not mean that all facets will be from the Greek pantheon. There are many, there may only be one Greek god or goddess that really draws you or to you that deeply. So this is why we also seek out other pantheons to find a god or a goddess that really draws us that deeply, to better understand ourselves. So we do this even though we are Hellenic. Traditions, the spiritual path is not ethnic. You don't need to be a Greek to follow the Greek path, but the Greek path also says that you need to create, progress it, and bring your own tradition to life. So seek out from anywhere you can to find the pieces to yourself. So research. Okay. Lemona is not restricted to by ethnicity, right? Yes, the Hellenic tradition is to know thyself, which means we personally tailor our spiritual path to self-discovery. This is a big part of finding connection and knowing yourself. Okay, so another question was, do the gods choose us? In some traditions, the gods are said to choose their followers, such as the African Orishas in the tradition of Santeria, but this is not the case, no, in the Hellenic tradition. The gods did choose mortals, but most often it was because of some feat the mortal achieves or something like that, like a hero would do or what have you. The chosen of the gods were called heroes, but an artist who achieves excellence in their art were also considered chosen or perhaps touched by the gods. This is the way the gods would choose. Like the victors at the Olympic Games, they had the favor of the gods. There may be many ways to win the favor or be chosen by the gods, but it is always because of something epic you have accomplished. It's not because you were born a certain way or your energy is more than others or whatever. What you need to do, you need to shed that skin of academic interpretation of ancient Greek religion. They have it completely wrong, as I've been trying to express a lot. So this is how we go about choosing a God to worship, or not to worship, to
to follow, to discover yourself. That is the prime concern, is discovering self. So when you're attracted to a certain god or goddess, you need to understand and figure out your connection, and that connection being that that particular god or goddess is a reflection of your self, your higher self, not your lower self. Yeah. Anyways, so I think that's all I need to say about this. I hope it helps. Please subscribe and like if you do. That'll help us a lot, and I'll catch you on another one. Okay? So let's do it.